their dwelling place, Mishkan, will go on from generation to generation. Rivka and I were watching one of these English detective stories on I don't know, from years ago. These old TV shows come back online and you watch. We like mysteries, okay? And so they go to some guy's house, and they say to him, "How long has this house been in your family?" And he says, "Oh, since William the Conqueror." So that's since 1066, So that's like almost 1,000 years it's been in the house. So there are people that feel that their dwelling place gives them some sort of immortality. That opinion exists. Even though Vav through Tet Vav is a challenge to everyone who thinks that they can buy off God or somehow avoid death, but there's a different nuance between the two sections. The first one is mostly talking about cash, right? Well, the second one is more talking about monumental building, which in the ancient world was a big deal. Please.
It says in their imagination.
Right. Bikir Bam, in their innermost thoughts, they think this. They're building this pile of rocks, right? This fancy pile of rocks, and they think somehow that's going to buy them immortality. And of course, the verses coming up are going to say, no way. It may buy you a little bit of notoriety for a certain amount of time, perhaps, okay? But true immortality, of course not. Of course not. Let's see. Okay, I didn't quite finish that. Kir'u bishmotam alei adamot. Who's the they? The alei adamot, people who come upon the land, are going to call out in their names. That people feel that they can buy immortality. When I read this, I can't help but think of the poem by Shelley, Ozymandias. The famous poem, it's really a sonnet that King Ozymandias, and it's somebody who's walking in the desert and comes upon this destroyed pesel, this destroyed idol statue, okay? And all that's left is like a little bit of the foot and the message. And the message was, look on, oh pitiful person, and notice the greatness of Ozymandias, right? So that someone made this, Ozymandias, the made up name by Shelley, by the poet, said, he's trying to say, you build these things that you think are going to last forever. I can't help but think of in our own lifetimes when we saw the statues of Stalin being pulled down, and the statues of Mao, and then the statues of Saddam Hussein. We remember in our own lifetimes people who built these things say, "Oh, I'm going to live forever," and that's what this is talking about. This pasuk is specifically addressing those thoughts. But and of course, some of these ancient people lasted a lot longer than Stalin, Mao, and Saddam Hussein. It's interesting. Hitler Yamach Shemo didn't do the same thing. He didn't build those big statues of himself. It's just curious, Why not? I don't know. I have no idea. But so many of the Rishaim of the 20th century built these monuments to themselves. And it just, and we got to see them torn down. And it was just, it's a very powerful moment watching them tear down these monuments to the egos of these Rishaim. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the comment you made.
I was just saying the Twin Towers, as monuments, certainly the ones who built it. And we see in our day, Hitler had movies of himself. He had left a legacy.
Oh, definitely. He filmed himself all the time. That's true. Both state films and home videos. He did. But it's curious he didn't build. Do we think of the Twin Towers in the same way? Because they were practical too. I understand. Yeah, they're functional. I understand what you're saying, but they symbolized something.
They were built to be exceptional. They were
Right.
built
They
to be
symbolized
exceptional.
something. That's
They
true.
weren't only built for that. They were built
Right,
to
right,
last
right.
forever. I mean, that was how it was done. And
Really?
everybody saw skylines of New York as being the Twin Towers.
That's true. All that's true. I don't think people in New York build thinking it's going to last forever. New York is always changing.
They were bomb-proof and all kinds of.
Oh yeah. Okay. Maybe. I don't. Okay. I remember. No, I remember when they pulled down Pennsylvania Station, and that was such a beautiful building. It was so sad, and they put up, Madison Square Garden, the new Madison Square Garden over it. And that was so sad. I always felt like New York didn't have this feeling of you're building. I'm not a New Yorker. No. But when some of the landmarks, have been pulled down, but, just because they had a better idea. In this case, they didn't have a better idea, but they had another idea. Let's put it that way. It's just, this is interesting. I don't know. Maybe. Okay. I didn't think of the Twin Towers that way, even though I lived in New York when they went up. I was, but
When they went down.
I was in Stamford, Connecticut when they came down. Yeah. But maybe you could look at it that way. Yeah. I definitely can't say not. The only things I think of in the United States as being something that's built to really last, I think of more of that in Washington. Mount Rushmore, which is very impressive.
They're pulling down a lot of statues now that, George Washington is going to be next. I mean, they're pulling down everything.
Not everything.
A lot.
A lot, yeah. Yeah, even Washington, I guess it's not forever.
Civil War
Yeah.
generals and-
Yeah. It's interesting.
Lincoln's Memorial or Lincoln's in Washington.
Yeah.
That stays on for.
Yeah, you'd think that's when I think of that, but he didn't build it to himself.
No, of course.
Lincoln didn't.
Right, that's a very important distinction. That's a very important distinction. Lincoln never would have done that. I mean, we've had other presidents that would have done that to themselves,
Yeah.
but Washington wouldn't, and Lincoln wouldn't. There are presidents that wouldn't have done that. It's just interesting. Okay, we're gonna sadly have to stop at this point, but we just got into the final lap in the first part of the poem, and we're leaving basically in a very in a very depressing mode.
This should not be said in the Shiva.
Right. But we're supposed to feel some of this, at a show. We do feel this, but then Baruch Hashem, we have the end.
Yeah,
Which
so-
Best Hashem, we'll get to that next week. But it's a poem that can't be rattled off. This really should be read with tremendous thought and consideration of all the very, very deep ideas which are in it. But we'll finish it on a better note, Best Hashem, next week. Shavua Tov to everybody.